host, Heather Ashley, and welcome to another episode of Women of Her Story, a podcast dedicated to celebrating women who have made or are making their mark on our society. Today, I have with me producer, director, photographer, creator, and owner of Studio 1208, Maria Bentley. Hi, Maria.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing over there in the UK?
It's going okay. We were having the best weather ever, so I cannot really complain. I mean, other than not being able to really do any work at the moment, but it's allowed me to do other things like hang out with my kids, which is cool. Yeah, we don't get to do that as often as we like. In fact, my husband and I were saying that in the past maybe 10 years, this is the longest we've been home for one sort of length of time, which is kind of crazy. But it with the good stuff, there's bad stuff, but you know, it is what it is.
Yeah. So why don't we go ahead and dive right in? What is Studio 1208?
Well, Studio 1208 is a partnership between myself and my husband, Nick. It's it's like a boutique production house that we do everything. I cannot find my words right now. I got it. I'm like, oh, what's the word? We're a full service production house. So basically we can do everything from conceptualizing all the way through, helping the client along every step. And then we can actually create the content as well. So we do everything, all of our editing in-house, pretty much everything. And if there's something we can't do, then we'll bring it in-house, find somebody to sort of bring in as a contractor. But yeah, we do literally everything. And my husband also writes music. So most of our projects are scored by my husband as well.
That's awesome. I love a creative family. That's what you mentioned your kids. Are they creative types as well?
My oldest is 9. His name is Jackson. And he actually, he's not, I wouldn't call him artistic, but he is creative in a lot of ways. He has a project that he does called The Cricket Kid. So he has a YouTube channel and a little presence on Instagram because he plays cricket at quite a high level. And so he does cricket content, and he's really, really awesome at it. So while he's not artistic in terms of, you know, drawing or painting or even music, he loves music, but he can't play any. But he is creative, just not artistic. And our little one will be the front man of a band for sure. He's a little artsy fartsy kid. He just like runs around like with his head in the clouds and just daydreaming, and he has such an imagination. He's so playful. They are polar opposites.
But yeah, I feel like that's really common with especially 2 kids. My brother and I could not be more opposite. I am a very circular thinker. He's very linear. You know, I'm super creative. He's much more scientific and mathematic.
I have a sister like that too.
Yeah. What's your favorite aspect of production of your company? What is it that you love doing the most, or do you have something that you love doing the most?
Conceptualizing, having something like having an idea and then making it come to life. Like when you are working with a brand or someone that is a brand, thinking about them, thinking like through the whole process and coming up with an idea that is really unique and kind of pushes the envelope a little bit. I love the process that Nick and I have when we are talking through an idea, and then between us it grows and grows and grows, and it's just kind of like we play off of each other, and it's almost like this little like ping pong game that we play, and it's so much fun to just sort of dream and dream and dream and make it as big as we want. And then I'm usually the one who's like reeling him back in of like what can actually be done because he is such an outside of the box thinker. So I'm sort of, we play devil's advocate for each other, and sort of poke holes in each other's plans to figure out how the best way we can approach it is, and that is really fun. And then the actual execution, to me, that's when I really come alive, because I just get so inspired by when I'm doing it. I feel of inspiration and get inspired, but once I'm actually there and I am in action, I'm just like, you couldn't even make me go home. Like, they have to tell me to stop. Because I'll just keep going and keep going, because it's almost like playing with your friends. Like, that's how I feel when I'm shooting with somebody, shooting something. I feel like I'm getting to play with my friends. So I'm just like in my element and just having the best time of my life and like just living. And yeah, so those are my two favorite things. And obviously when it's done and you get to see the final product, that's really cool. But the process for me is so fun.
Yeah. So, specifically in photography, I feel like a lot of your content, I could be completely incorrect, but I feel like a lot of your content is very stylized photography. Did you always know you wanted to be in photography or videography?
Interestingly, I feel like I'm a late bloomer to photography. I went to art school when I was 25 years old. And that's after being in college for like 7 years.
Yeah.
Already, because I was just kind of one of those people who wasn't exactly sure what they wanted to do. My first major was kinesiology. And then I thought, no, I'm going to study business. And then finally it was photography. And I'll never forget my dad pulling me aside right before my 25th birthday and telling me, Maria, do you know what it's called when someone's good at a lot of things, but they can't pick one? And I was like, what? And he said, it's called being immature.
Oh,
And yeah, and I was like, yeah, I did make that face. I was, wow, I feel very attacked. But honestly, it's one of the best pieces of advice I ever got, because he checked me really hard and I needed to hear it. And he said, listen, you can be good at a lot of stuff and like a lot of stuff. All you have to do is pick one of the things that you love to do and you're good at, and pick it as a job and make money at it. Why would you not do that?
yeah.
You can still like all those things. You can still do all those things. You can still be good at all those other things, but pick one of them and make a job out of it. And that really was a light bulb moment for me, because I don't know why I was just sort of stunned by, oh, what if I choose the wrong one? What if it's not the right path for me? But it's stupid to think that, because if you don't choose any, then you're never on any path. And
Yeah.
it doesn't mean you're not good at those things or can't use them as a fallback. If it ends up being the wrong choice, who knows? But at least start somewhere.
Yeah.
And I did. That was just checked me, and that's where I started.
What is it about photography that keeps you fulfilled creatively? What do you love so much about it?
Well, the reason I even chose photography at that time was because I sort of just took a step back and looked at my life. And the one thing that I was consistently doing every single day, no matter what, was taking pictures. At the time, I had a 0.1 megapixel cell phone, one of the first cell phones you could take photos with. I'm old. And I was taking pictures every day. I was doing all these little weird light things, and I was taking pictures of all these shadows, and I was just so enamored by light and what it was doing. And so my phone, I took it doesn't sound like a lot now considering the memory we have on our phones, but at the time of one of the first cell phones with a camera, I took over 5,000 pictures on it.
Oh,
And that is a lot because you know that after maybe 200, your phone was like, you need to erase.
that's what I was gonna say. I was gonna say, was your phone like moving real slow, like at that point?
I mean, my phone never moved fast because it was like a shitty flip phone that barely had any capabilities on it. Um, I mean, the screen was like tiny. I
Yeah.
mean, maybe 1.5 inches by 1 inch, like tiny.
Yeah.
So, but what I could do, I learned that I could download them onto like I was on Sprint at the time, and I could download them to my Sprint account. So I just had all these photos. I tried to print some of them way back when, and they were the worst quality you've ever seen. So pixelated. But I'm glad that I did that. I mean, they don't exist anymore, but I'm glad that I sort of kept the ones that I kept because it's really cool to look back at them.
Yeah.
Anyway, but I love what I really, really love about photography, and that makes me so amazed every single time, is that you're literally capturing a 100th of a second, a 1,000th of a second that will never occur again in the same way.
Right.
So, in some ways, I think of myself as a historian because I'm helping to capture like moments in time that will just are fleeting and would just go away.
Yeah.
So in a way, photography is definitely, I'm drawn to history and just recording history and what's happening at that time. So it's such a unique thing. And then when you think about all the different types of photography, it's just a really special gift to use, or a special tool to use to give people things. And make people really happy with photography. You know, wedding photography is like such a special gift to give somebody.
My sister-in-law is a wedding photographer.
Oh, really?
Yeah. She loves it.
It's so important. There's so much weight in wedding photography, and it is such an important thing. And, the energy that you bring to that situation is so important, and you truly are documenting something that will never happen again. I always say weddings, it's interesting because those two groups of people that come, like the families, there will never be a reason for those two groups of people to come together again.
Yeah.
Not for any family function, not for funerals, not for anything. So that's a really unique situation.
Yeah.
It's really beautiful to document.
Do you prefer photographing like human subjects, or do you like architecture, nature, a mix of all of them?
I'm definitely drawn to humans.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. I had to do all of it in school. And I enjoyed it, but I always wanted to be, when I started, I really wanted to be a celebrity portrait artist. That's what I thought I wanted to do. One of my early photographic journey memories is I was really, really enamored by David LaChapelle. I remember going and sitting in Barnes and Noble and just taking his his like books out and just looking and being like, oh my God, it's my first time. I remember looking at photos and being mind blown. Like,
Yeah.
what? Like, you can do anything with this format. It's just magical. So I just thought that was so cool, even though our styles could not be more different. But I was just so enamored by it. He was like my Andy Warhol, basically. I was just so inspired by him. So I wanted to take pictures of famous people, but I also wanted to take pictures of people who, not just celebrity status, but important people who changed the world or were important to the world in ways that maybe some people don't even understand or know about, which is kind of directly ties into what you're doing, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I didn't end up being that photographer, but it's something that I always was really drawn to.
What would you call your personal style of photography?
That is an interesting question. I have to think about this for a second.
Or like, how would you describe it if that's a little easier for you to like phrase around?
Okay. I think my personal style, or what I always sort of am drawn to in my own work, is like I feel like it's really clean and fresh. Um, I'm drawn more to shooting women and females. I really love the female form. Um, I love shooting things that involve movement. But I really am always drawn to faces and eyes. I love portraiture. So even when I'm doing stuff that's, more fashion based, I'm still always really drawn to sort of those like tighter beauty shots.
Mm-hmm.
But I converse a lot with my subjects. And I think that one of the things that most people would say when they work with me is that they feel a really deep level of comfort and can open up and sort of let more of themselves come through than if you just walked in and you had to take pictures with somebody that you didn't know, and
Mm.
it can be quite awkward. Even professionals, who they're paid to come in and take pictures with somebody they don't know, and they're
Mm-hmm.
just walk in comfortable. I think even they would say that I would make them feel a deeper level of comfort, or like we knew each other for a long time, or I'm really
Mm-hmm.
fun on set too. I don't have sets that are like, that and you would look around and somebody looks scared.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Or like they've been abused, or
Yeah.
they're afraid that they'll get yelled at or something. It's not like that. It's really light. I like everybody to have a good time, but I really do work. I wouldn't expect anybody to work harder than I'm working. So I work really, really hard. And while I'm fun, I'm like really, really focused in getting shit done. And
Mm-hmm.
um,
I can say from personal experience, in terms of being comfortable, like at a shoot, I've I'm being an actor, headshots, all that stuff. There have been a few times where I've been so uncomfortable, and the photos turn out fine, but they don't shine through who I was. And then as soon I had found a photographer who she made everything so comfortable, as soon as I walked in, it felt like we were just like hanging out. And then those photos came out so great because I was comfortable, she was comfortable, and the whole energy you could feel in the finished products.
it really does make a difference. I mean, what you look like comfortable and what you look like uncomfortable. I mean,
Uh-huh.
maybe a casting director doesn't necessarily know, but because they've never seen you before, but there is a different kind of sparkle in your eye when you're really just being who you are, or whatever character you're trying to put forward right then. It's like
Mhm.
you can commit to that character. Um, and yeah, it makes such a difference. It makes such a difference. I've been on sets with all kinds of photographers. In fact, as I was saying about David, um, David's the first like real photographer I ever worked with. I was an intern, and then I became production coordinator for David LaChapelle. And that was my first job out of school, which was my absolute dream job. And it was like a birth of fire. It was a very steep learning curve. I worked
Mhm.
20 plus hours a day for almost no money, and just
Oof.
literally gave my blood, sweat, and tears because there was no place I would have rather been. And if he would have told me,
Mhm.
well, today you have to shave your head for this job, I would have been like, where are the clippers? No kidding. I would have done anything. I was so hungry and ready, and he was, like I said, my Andy Warhol, so I just admired him so much. Now, that said, there are things about certain people when you're in situations, you learn what you want to do or how you want to be as a boss, as a coworker, as a person, and what you don't want to do. and how you don't want to act. And that was a lot of what I learned from that situation, was what I didn't want to do once I was in that position.
Mm.
And while, you know, we're talking about a conceptual absolute genius, you know, he's a human being at the same time, and we're all super flawed. And unfortunately, I was able to see my hero's flaws, which was very devastating at the time. But, you know, as you go forward and you have that sort of space from it, you can see it more clearly, and you can learn to appreciate what they are, and, you know, for everything about them. So while there were times where I felt really straight up abused in that environment, you know, now I look back and I can, being a business owner myself, I can look back and say, okay, he's dealing with literally millions of dollars, and he is under a tremendous amount of stress and a tremendous amount of pressure. And if any of us mess anything up, it's on him at the end of the day. So, you know, you can kind of feel for him in a way. I don't think it's acceptable to treat people terribly no matter what.
Right.
But you can kind of see, once you're further on in your path, you can sort of understand certain behaviors a little bit better than when you're a kid.
Yeah.
Well, I was a kid, I was an adult, but I was a kid in that world, you know,
Yeah.
totally green and just, like I said, hungry and would do anything. I imagine it in some ways, when you're an actor, it's similar. Like, you get into a room with people that you are just in awe of, and you're kind of like, right, I'm ready to do whatever. I'm here. Here I am. Tell me what to do. I'll be it.
Yeah. And then you figure a little later, you're like, oh, I shouldn't have done that project for $20. Like, that was 400 hours of my time. Like,
Yeah.
that's crazy.
Oh, yeah. It is interesting how you go through the process, and we all go through that process, whether it's, you know, somebody in a hospital or somebody in a business office, or, you know, any of us creatives. We all go through it, just in different ways. It just looks a little bit different. But if we knew then what we know now.
Yeah.
Oh,
What do you hope to achieve with your production company?
gosh, so much. I mean, it's first so fun being able to work with Nick. Not a lot of couples can work together, and for some reason, whatever that is, we just work. It just works that way for us. And it may be because he is more of the video and I'm more of the still, so we have this mutual respect for each other in ways that, man, he can do things that I could never do, and I can do things that he could never do. So we have this really deep level of respect for each other. But one of the projects that we are really, really proud of, that we sort of keep going back to, is we worked with UNICEF.
Oh.
Yeah, we did. Now we've done 2 campaigns in the child marriage division to help shed light on child marriage and the horrors of it, and the very real situation that's happening, not just in third world countries, but in America and in Western Europe, and I mean, literally everywhere.
Yeah.
Sure, there are places that have a much bigger problem because it's widely accepted as part of life. But only 12 states in America have legislation that protects children from marriage.
What?
Yeah, and most people have that exact reaction. It is wild. It is absolutely.
Yeah.
There is all this archaic legislation that makes it okay for a parent to sign basically the child's rights to get married as young as, I'm not even kidding, in some states, as young as 12 years old.
That's a baby. What?
A baby.
Not even a teen yet. Like,
I didn't even have my period until, like, I just turned 13.
yeah. What?
Yeah.
That's not okay.
Uh-uh. It's not at all.
What?
Yeah, it's wild in the United States of America.
I don't like that.
No, ma'am.
That's no good.
No, but things are changing. It's just very slow, and you would think it's a slam dunk, no brainer, but for some reason, it's not, and people are just dragging their feet. So there are definitely organizations out there that are doing such great work, trying to get that changed, and there are states that are finally coming to the light and seeing the error.
I wonder if it's because, I mean, everyone who isn't enlightened on the subject, like myself, assumes that it's already been taken care of.
Of
You know what
course.
I mean? Which is a very ignorant way to live my life, I know, but it's something where that just seems like such a no-brainer. And that just seems like something that, I mean, most people think it's young to get married at 18. So then at that point, why would you even consider that? Why would it even occur to you that there's still legislation that allows 12-year-olds to be um abused? That's what it is. It's child abuse. That's not getting married. That's being forced into a situation that they should not be in, that they have no say in, even if they think they do. And I think it's something that, like, maybe it's really because, well, everyone just assumes it's already been taken care of, which is, that's not great.
I I totally agree, and I think that sometimes we are all guilty of, if it's not something that we're seeing that's technically on our soil or like something that's in our face, we sort of, it is ignorant. It's blissful ignorance. It's not ignorance in a way that you're trying to be bad. It's just
Yeah.
blissful ignorance because you're like, well, it's sad. That's
Yeah.
sad that kids have to get married when they're kids have to get married and have babies when they're babies themselves. But you don't think of it as your own cousin or sister or whatever, because you're like, there's no way America would be like that. Because, like,
Right.
obviously we would never. But yeah, why would you ask that question when you're like, how could anyone even think that was okay?
Yeah, yeah, because it's one of those things where you automatically assign it to a third world country. Even same thing with like starvation and anything like that, where we're just like, no, that couldn't happen here. As I sit in my apartment in New York City, like
Yeah.
that kind of thing, where it's not a malicious ignorance. It's just there's no way that that could happen.
Sure. And, we're also really desensitized in a lot of ways because of our ability to get information and of all of the images we are seeing at all times about terrible, terrible events taking place. I mean, you can't turn on the television without terrible things happening and Sarah McLachlan singing a song with dogs. So you're just like,
In the arms of
yeah, exactly. You're with me. So we're desensitized to sadness.
yeah.
We're just like, that is so sad. Yes, I will take that latte extra hot. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
In a way it's again not a malicious ignorance. It's just we're just programmed to not. We just don't think. We're just like, well, we're not doing that. My brain says that's not okay. So obviously, like, we live in such a cosmopolitan country. We're so on top of it. There's no way our people would ever think that's cool.
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
when we get mad over like really small things.
Yeah. And
Anyway.
I think, yeah, it's like instead of absorbing the information and the tragedies and all of this, we're just kind of receiving it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, I hear it. I wasn't listening, but I heard it.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
We're just constantly downloading all this information. We're just like, it's just, we're being pelted with information visually and through, we're hearing it all the time. So we're just like, I think it's in a way, it's like this shell shock where we're just like, it almost like we're just this vessel that continues to take on information. And yeah, it's kind of crazy, but Thankfully, there are loads of groups out there. There's one called Unchained at Last, run by this woman who, her name is Freddie Reese, and she was a victim of child marriage. And so it's like her life's work now to try to bring this to light, and she works so hard to change legislation and everything. But then there's also, on the greater scale, is UNICEF, who works directly all over the world to help protect children in a plethora of ways, but this is one of their divisions. So we are so lucky to have been the people they chose to partner with to create basically visual information to help people understand that it's not just a third world problem. So basically this is part of that fun idea stage. We decided that we wanted to make a wedding film that you don't know that it's a child getting married until you know. And we made her white and blonde. And we made it as Western as possible. We did the wedding totally Western. Everything about it was shot like a real wedding film. But you never would have suspected anything. And then when she gets down to the aisle, you can't even tell that she's a small child because of angles and just how we played with it. And when he lifts up her veil, it's a like 12-year-old little girl. And you're just like, oh God. And I mean, even talking about it now, I get the chills because it's so horrible. Everybody on set was crying that whole day. Everybody, there was just the weirdest vibe on set. It was not fun. It was horrible. It was just very serious. And we just all knew that what we were doing was so important. And then 2 years later, which was, I think, last year, we were asked to create another one. Actually, that first film is still to this day the most successful video campaign that UNICEF and the UN has ever done. It's the most viral campaign they ever had. It has, it has, I think, like over 60 million views just on Facebook alone.
Wow.
It was crazy. So yeah, they asked us to do another one. This time we did a fake engagement, again Western. So it was a bit of a bait and click and we shot it all on cell phone, to make it seem like it was just a guy filming himself, like he was planning this engagement. And again, you wouldn't know anything. He even got his friend to hide in the bushes and like film it from afar so like you could see the interaction. And the moment that you know that something's wrong is the woman and the man come together, and she reaches out and hands him an envelope, or he hands her an envelope, sorry. And what you don't see is that right beside her is a little girl, and she takes the envelope and she pushes her daughter in her, and he takes her. He purchased her.
Yeah.
And then everybody dies because they're crying their eyes out. And it was horrible. Nobody died. I didn't mean everybody. They all died inside.
Yeah. I just got chills.
It's horrible. I'll send you the links after this. But yeah, it's really awesome to be able to use your talents and to do work that matters. We obviously approach all of our work as though it matters, and it does matter. It matters to somebody. But when you can do something that actually makes changes in the world for the better, for groups of people you don't know and you've never met and you never will, that's really powerful. So I would love to do more in that sector. But a lot of the work that we have now is super fun and I enjoy it so much. We work a lot in fitness, which I really love. It's super fun. We work all over the place, shooting all kinds of things, and I really, really love that. I love the travel aspect of it, but the fact that we also get to do things that matter in terms of a greater good is really, really special. So
Has it taken you somewhere in the world that you didn't imagine that it would?
Gosh, we've been so many places. One of the sort of most remote places we've been for work is Bora Bora, which was really cool, and I'm dying to go back. But yeah, we've gone to lots of places. One of our favorite places that we've only recently been, well, at the end of last year, we went to Grand Cayman, which isn't, remote or anything, but I had never been there, and it's absolutely magical. We did some hotel work there, and I just love that. And you get to meet so many cool people. I went to Tokyo right before that trip for a work job. And so, yeah, it's really cool, and it's all very last minute sometimes. It's not like you plan to go somewhere for months. It's like you get a call and 2 weeks later you're there.
Oh, that's awesome.
I mean, sometimes it can't happen that quickly depending on what exactly is going down
yeah.
Paperwork or whatever. But, it's very exciting. It's very exciting and very fun. And
I'm sure you have global entry.
we do. Yes, we do.
It's a necessity when you're traveling like that.
Absolutely.
What would you say has been like the highlight of your career so far? Would you say it's the UNICEF project, or is there a few things that jump out to you?
Gosh, I feel like you could divide them into sort of certain sectors. Like the UNICEF is definitely a highlight because of its importance and its value, and also, business wise, it was so amazing to be able to make a mark that was so, to go viral like that was so amazing. You're just like, wow, what's the recipe? Let's double it. There is not exactly a recipe for going viral, unfortunately. I wish I knew it. But so that would be one of them. One project we did that was really cool and kind of stood out was we worked with this fitness brand called the DB Method, and they make an at-home squat machine. So like think ThighMaster, but a squat machine that you have in your house.
Oh, okay.
It's something that you could easily see on, Home Shopping Network or something. I don't think they've done home shopping, but it's like one of those kind of products. And you think, gosh, what can you make that's interesting and dynamic for a squat machine that's at home, and it just does one thing. It goes up and down. Woohoo! But we did this project where it was right before Meghan, Prince Harry's wife, gave birth. And our idea was to insinuate that, we thought of the idea right before she gave birth, and the idea was right after she delivered that we would drop it. So we were insinuating that this is the machine that the royals use to get back in shape after the baby. We hired lookalikes. We shot it here in Britain. We hired the best lookalikes. We hired corgis.
Oh my gosh.
We hired a palace.
Oh my gosh.
So bananas. And these lookalikes were so incredible. And people were like, I think still to this day, some people thought we went and shot the royals. They were like, how did you do this? How did you get in there? They let you shoot them while they're working out. Like, what?
Oh my God. That sounds like it must have been a ball on set. Like, just really lighthearted, really fun. Oh man.
It was crazy. That was cool. And then earlier in my career, which was more fashion based, I was able to shoot 2 covers for Victoria's Secret catalog, which was really cool. And shoot with supermodels and just work with that caliber of talent. And so that was a really big moment in my professional career. Back before that, I was on a reality show on VH1.
I was actually going to ask you about that.
Yeah, it was called The Shot. It was on VH1, and it was basically top model for photographers.
Mm-hmm.
And I was on this show, and I ended up winning the show,
Ooh,
which
she
was
fancy.
fancy. Yeah, it was really cool. I obviously had a great, I had a great time. I don't know if I didn't win, if it would have been as fun, but it was a great experience, and I learned a lot from it, and I learned to trust myself a lot. And it was right after La Chapelle, so I was still so green, um, and I think that made me more pliable, so I could really take on the advice of our mentors, and I could just sort of really go with the flow, whereas other people on the show might have been further along in their career, so they were sort of more stuck in their ways.
Uh-huh. Yeah, you were able to absorb and take the criticism without taking it personally.
Yes, I mean, for the most part. I'm a Scorpio, so I take a lot personally when people are telling me stuff.
Same
But
here.
yes. but yes, absolutely. And I just, you know what? I just wanted to win, man. Again, a Scorpio thing to do and say is like, I just wanted to win. So I would take any advice that they had to give and just try to figure out. I mean, in reality shows, they are just trying to mess with you every chance they get. So they're making it as hard on you as possible. So, you're in situations that you would never come face to face with in real life.
Mm-hmm.
But I felt very comfortable on camera and on television. That didn't bother me at all. Whereas I think for some other people that was very,
Is the opposite side of the camera that they're used to.
yeah, and I think it made people really uncomfortable to know that that they just couldn't get away from it. And I just was like, yeah, whatever. I wasn't trying to be somebody I wasn't. I was just doing me. And I think that's hard for some people.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, especially when you have a camera on you. I think if you're someone who's not naturally comfortable in most situations, as soon as a camera comes on you, you feel like you have to be an actor, even though
Yeah.
that's not what it is. I understand that thought process. I've come across people who I've just been like, please, I just need you to read lines for me. I just need you to read a line. Then they can't
Just
do it.
read the words. Only words. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is interesting. So I think I was cut out. I was more well cut out for that situation than some people.
Hmm. Have you ever been dismissed on when you're by maybe someone in your on your team or a new person on your team, or not even that, when you're presenting an idea to someone, have you just been absolutely dismissed for um no explicable reason? Does that make sense?
It does. Funny enough, being that my husband and I are in business together,
Hmm.
often on
Yeah.
set, people will go to him
Hmm.
as if he's the one in charge, when
Yeah.
in fact, it me.
Bish it me.
Yeah, I am the HBIC. Yeah, a lot of times people will almost dismiss me as if I am like just like a PA or something, and they will be like, "Oh, even though they've been talking directly to me the whole time, like via
Yeah.
email, I have given them all the information, like they know what my name is, they know that it's a female, whatever. They will be like, um, can you bring me to who's in charge, or can you bring me to? They won't even say my name. It's almost
Oh.
like forget. And I'm like, yeah, it's me. I'm Maria. And they're like, oh, I mean, like, can you bring me over to Nick? I'm like, what?
You're like,
What?
excuse me?
So it happens quite a lot, and it happens. Clients often will default.
Really?
Yes. Um,
Do you
it,
think part of that might have to do with you also being, you made a joke that you're old, but you're a young, beautiful woman. Do you think that that might also play into it a little bit, that they are just kind of like, well, she can't possibly be the one in charge.
You know, it could be. I think there's a plethora of reasons why, and you know, also as I mentioned on set, I am in there digging deep with everybody, so I am helping anybody who needs help. And I think a lot of times, you know, when the person in charge isn't usually doing that.
Right.
A lot of times the person in charge doesn't show up until later into the process when everything's already sort of set up and ready to go.
Right.
So there's so many reasons why it might happen, but I do feel that that's one thing that I do come across sometimes, is that people expect that the person in charge is not going to be me or is going to be my husband automatically. But I'm usually the one who's producing the shoot, or in charge, not in charge like in a power way. It's just in charge in a way that I know what the hell is going on.
Yeah, in an organization way.
I'm the one who can give you the answers you're after.
Right. Have you ever had like a particularly difficult situation with someone where you've just like been like to your husband, just been like, deal with this, I can't even deal with these people right now?
Yes. Unfortunately, yes. We had a client that had a lot of women on their team, and for whatever reason, it was just like I'm not a hard person to get along with. I usually get along with pretty much everybody, and I've myself to be a bit of a social chameleon, so I can kind of find something to talk about with anybody, really. But for whatever reason, I could not gel with this team, and I found them to be really combative towards me. Wouldn't take anything I said, would just fight me on everything. If Nick said it, it was like it was the gospel.
Oh, I hate that.
Happy to hear. And I that was really hard for me, because I really got angry about it, and I was so just over them. And I just had to at some point we just had to go, look, you have to deal with them. I've got to step out of this. It was so bad to the point where they would deliberately try to have reasons for me to not be on set for things.
What?
Like no, we don't have budget to bring her on set. And he was like, she's
she is the whole thing.
Like,
this is what you're paying for.
Yeah. So it was just really a strange situation. First of all, it's not common at all, but he had to just go in and become the guy, and I just had to sort of dolphin out of the room on that one and just let him deal with it, because that was just a really tough relationship for me. For the most part, we have the best clients, the coolest clients. There's in any new client relationship, there's, you have teething problems where it's a lot of education, sort of like teaching them the process of how it goes, why things cost what they cost, in terms of timing, how much timing is needed. Most companies are always behind and like running as fast as they can to like catch up and hoping that you will save their ass. And 99.9% of the time we can save their ass, but it makes the job way harder, way more stressful, and way more annoying, obviously, and way expensive, to be honest, because it's so much more work.
Yeah.
So, it's a lot of teaching your client how to be the ideal client, but also learning yourself how to best service them. So you're always just sort of like trying to learn how to be better and how to serve your clients better, and what they specifically need, because nobody's the same.
Right. Is there a creator of any genre that continually inspires you?
Oh my gosh.
It could even just be like a musical artist that you love to listen to, because every time you do, you're always ready to do some work.
Oh, let me just think about that for a hot second.
Yeah, take your time.
Like, who am I just having a crush on? There's a photographer called Henry Lutweiler who is so amazing. Okay, everybody has seen this photo. It's the photo of the ballerina's feet.
Mm-hmm.
The close-up of the feet. One foot is in the point shoe. The other foot is
In her
bare
toe tape, yeah.
on her toe tape. He took that. And he photographs Misty Copeland, and he's just phenomenal, and I love him. He always just, every single thing that I see of his, I'm just like, heart eyes. Another artist tried to rip him off with that ballerina thing, and it really irked me.
Yeah.
But he's amazing. I've always loved Helmut Newton, photographer, and I've always loved Guy Bourdin. Their work has always been something that I've been super inspired by, photographically. And I always love Stevie Nicks. She, in terms of music,
I'm obsessed.
She's so, like, I don't know, there's so much about her that I feel inspired by, and just like I want to have a conversation with her, and she's so effortless and cool and has so much to say, and I don't know, you just want her to be your cool aunt that, like, you know, got you high a couple times. She's just cool, and so everything, anytime I listen to Fleetwood Mac, I'm always just like, oh, it puts me in such a good place.
Yes.
Gosh, what else? Who else is creating things that just make me go crazy? I could sit here and think about this and like come up with 10 more, I'm sure, but ain't nobody got time for that.
I could listen to Edge of 17 on repeat all day, every day.
Honestly, so good.
She's so cool.
She's so cool. I mean, she's so cool. You know, he is an author, but he's a friend as well. His name is Bobby Kim, but a lot of people know him by Bobby Hundreds. We went to high school together. We've known each other since we were kids, and he has just grown into the most amazing human being. And he wrote his first book called This Is Not a T-Shirt. It came out last year, and it's kind of like a memoir, but he owns the brand The Hundreds, which is a streetwear brand. But he's also an activist. He's a photographer. He's an artist. He's a skateboarder. He does everything. But his writing always inspires me so much. I think he is just one of the smartest, most well-read human beings on the earth, and everything he says, I'm just like, yes, tell me more. He's incredible. So I'm always inspired by him too, because not only is he super smart and super thoughtful about what and how he says things, he has so much to say, but he's also just such a go-getter. So it always makes me, I don't know, it makes me want to kick ass and get off my ass and go to work and get it done. And same with my friend Jenny. She's the same exact way. She inspires me to do that too, because she's like the biggest boss lady I've ever met in my life. Badass.
Speaking of like being inspired by all these people doing amazing creative things or with activism, all these things, do you ever compare and then question yourself?
Oh, I think that's so natural. It's like the curse of the artist, isn't it? But it's like, you know, comparison is the thief of joy, which is a great quote to remind yourself of often, because the beauty of you is that there's only one of you. And while it's not always the right fit all the time, sometime it is the right fit. And you got to just keep doing you. And at some point it will click. And it's easy to say that, of course. But honestly, I think if you're an artist of any kind, you have felt that way. Like, for even now, I'm like, when are they going to figure out that I suck? You know what I mean? Like, you're just always like, you feel like you're flying by the seat of your pants, but there's nothing more, I don't know, working with other brands, you get to see their cracks too, and you realize, holy shit, we're all flying by the seat of our pants here.
Nobody really knows what's going on.
Knows what they're doing. They're just feeling it out. They're making mistakes. You make mistakes, they make mistakes. Some mistakes are more costly than others, and some are like, oops, okay, we can move on from here. So I think the older I get, the more I realize that. I mean, really early on, you're just so like bright-eyed and bushy-tailed that you almost don't even care. You're just like happily, organically creating, and you're just like, I'm just doing this for me. And, you know, in some ways, it's the most beautiful time of your creative life.
Mm-hmm.
When it becomes a job, then you start being like,
yeah.
I've got to make it so good. It's got to be great. I have to get clients. I need the money. I need the money. Chase the money. And you sometimes stop creating for yourself, which keeps you that happy grounded. But when you're not creating anything for yourself, then all you're doing is the rat race thing. And, you know,
that's not fun.
No. And all you're seeing is the people who are doing it better than you.
And
social does not help you in that way.
Right.
You're just like, I need a better account. I need to get bigger clients. I need to make more money. I need agency representation. I need people to know me. I need followers. I need likes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you just become sad. And it also takes away all your creativity.
It does. When you raise the stakes too high for yourself, that's when nothing's fun anymore. Nothing's gonna be up to your own standards, even if they're false standards, you know, standards that no one but yourself set on.
Totally. And it's forceful. It's like the ideas don't even come the same way. You're like forcing ideas. You're like, all right, I need 10 ideas and I need them now. All right. You know? And it's like, okay, bear with me here. It's a horse and he goes and he eats a sandwich. And then, you know, and then he turns into a unicorn. And you're like, what? Where are you going with this? And you're like, I don't know. I just like the money.
Yeah, you're like, I don't know. That was 5 ideas. I need 5 more.
It's bad. It's bad. I remember sometimes in school when you would get an assignment, it was like before the assignment, you had 100 ideas and you're like, oh, I just keep thinking of things I want to do. And you get an assignment that's so broad, you could have done anything. You're like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah. Yeah. You're like, I'm a fraud.
Exactly. I'm terrible at this. I don't deserve it. I shouldn't be doing this for work. There's no way anyone should pay me for this.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then you're doing great and you're excited and like you are getting some wins. You're like also thinking, no one should be paying me for this.
I'm sure you've had moments even still where you're, and less in a imposter syndrome sort of way and more in a I can't believe that people are paying me for this, like in a happy way.
I think that all the time. I think that all the time. I'm just like, this is, like I said, when I'm shooting, I'm like, I'm playing with my friends. We're all like creating. And one of the biggest lessons that I've learned throughout my, you know, past with working with other big photographers or anyone is the idea of team is so important. You don't do anything on your own in this genre. Like I need my team to be so strong. So it's like they're so important to me, and like you have to treat them like they're important to you. And you are all like, it is the ultimate collaboration. Well, actually, I think that a wedding is the ultimate collaboration because you're collaborating with these people on like one of the most intimate moments of their life. But commercially, it's such an ultimate collaboration because you're pulling all these amazing creative minds together to make this one piece.
Yeah.
And it's like you would be stupid not to listen or take on board what these other professionals in their own genres have to say about it. It's like, you know, you have to keep your vision ultimately, but it's like, I love to collaborate. I love to collaborate. I'm really big on, you know, 8 minds are better than one.
Well, I actually have a question. Have you ever had a specific idea for a shot and then hair and makeup comes out and it doesn't work for the shot that you had in mind?
Oh, sure. All
How
the
do you
things.
adapt to that?
I think what we I think what you have to do is you just have to be honest. You just have to talk through it, and ultimately hair and makeup wants to be there to help you get exactly what you're looking for. They're not there to just do whatever they want to do and hope it works. They're like, I want to execute this properly. It's also about how you approach it. I think there are ways of making somebody feel really small that's really crappy and not the right way to go about it. And at the end of the day, if you treat somebody with respect and kindness, they would rather go to the ends of the earth for you. If you're if you're appreciative of their craft and what they're doing, and can talk to them in a way that makes sense and that is still appreciative of what they've done, and maybe we can try this, like, oh, that's not exactly what I meant, pull your inspiration image again and be like a little bit more like this, so they can visually see what you're talking about. The pre-production process is so important in terms of your team, with your wardrobe, your hair and makeup, anybody who's involved creatively, to be talking beforehand. Nick has what we call his work husband. His name is Paul. And it's like we are the three amigos. The three of us do everything together. He's our director of photography, and he does all our camera work, and he's just like our technical Yoda, basically. So Nick comes up with all this crazy shit, and Paul's like figures out how to technically do it. Which he's very important, and they just have this great chemistry with each other and understanding. So you grow this team together. Obviously the three of us have been together for a long time, but you get new hair and makeup all the time, or new wardrobe, or new people you've never worked with, and you have to make magic with somebody you've never worked with. So I at least try to connect with them before, send them mood boards, talk about inspiration, talk through things, so that we are on the same page, so that when it comes to it on the day, we don't have a lot of time wasted by cross wires.
Right.
Oh, I thought you meant this, so it's not taking more time. I mean, obviously time is money on set, so we need to move rapidly, but preparation is key in these situations.
Do you have any advice for someone who's wanting to get involved in production, any aspect of it?
Sure, yeah. I mean, I always I've had lots of interns myself, and have helped like high school students and stuff who will come and sort of like shadow us for a couple weeks. And I always tell them to identify who they respect in the business they want to be in. And this goes for anything, anybody. Who's your ultimate? Who's your dream person in your genre? Who's the best? And figure out how you can go and work for them, how you can sweep their floors, how you can get in their presence or be around. If you can't get in front of them, be the squeaky wheel who every so often checks in. And in the meantime, when you're not with them, find somebody else and keep working. Stop being entitled and thinking that when you are, this is so old school what I'm about to say. This is the opposite of millennial. Sorry, everybody, but I'm not sorry. This is something you need to hear. You have to pay your dues. You need to do work for free, because you are not, until you are offering something and you are adding something to that set. If you are adding to it and you are bringing expertise to it, then yes, you deserve to be paid. But when you're trying to download somebody who spent years and years working and perfecting their craft, it's very, very selfish to think that you should come in there, have them download themselves into you, and get paid for it at the same time.
Yeah.
That's really selfish and really like not the right way to go about it. I'm not saying, listen, being paid, I'm talking only monetarily here. Like when you're starting out, you aren't paid monetarily, but you're paid in a plethora of other ways. You have to decide which way you're being paid every time you do something. So like the idea of being paid has to not only be monetarily to you in the beginning. Now, that's only a short amount of time. It's a drop in the bucket compared to your entire professional life. Oh my gosh. Sorry. Hold on.
That's okay.
Anyway, so it's super important to understand that early on you're being paid in other ways. You're being paid with knowledge and experience. And the best way to learn how to be in production is to be on a production. Get in there any way you can. Sweep those floors, like I said, but you also need to learn the etiquette of production. You need to learn when it's okay to talk, who it's okay to talk to, what is appropriate, what is not appropriate. And the best way to do that is by being there. Mm-hmm. I went to art school, but I felt like I outgrew it because at a certain point you're just learning techniques and, other things that are great and you need to know. But I always say you need to learn the rules so that you can learn how to break them. I absolutely think that art school was really, really successful for me. And I really enjoyed my time. And I learned the technique that I really needed. I had the natural ability, but I didn't know shit about the math and science side. I didn't even realize it was so mathematical or scientific.
Yeah.
That's why women didn't do it back in the day, because it was considered a mathematical, scientific, job that women didn't do. And also the cameras weighed literally 50 pounds.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
It was a man's job, which is so cool now because I think so many women are doing it. And when I was in school, it was starting to be where women were sort of coming forward. I mean, at the time I was in school, which was, 15 years ago now, mm-hmm. It was all the big photographers were all men. You had a couple in there that was like an Annie Leibovitz, but most people couldn't name any famous female photographers.
Right.
Annie Leibovitz was the only one anyone could come up with, even though there were women that had been doing it, like Nan Golden and loads of. I mean, Dorothea Lange is one of the most iconic women photographers ever, but they weren't people who were shooting covers of Vogue, So it just, I felt like I was on the forefront of something very special at that time, mm-hmm. and you really, really, really see a shift. I mean, women are kicking ass in photography and in filmmaking and just across the creative genre now. It's just it's pretty cool to see and be a part of. There's two other things that I tell every single intern that ever works with me. One is, if you want to make it, be undeniably good. That's straight up advice. You be so good that they cannot ignore you. And that means work on your craft every single day, eat, sleep, and breathe it, fall in love with it, break up with it, and then fall in love with it again. And then I always tell my interns to be like water. I tell my kids to be like water. I tell everybody to be like water. And the reason I use water is because water is one of the most powerful substances on Earth. Mm-hmm. It's also one of the most pliable substances on Earth. It's strong enough to erode rock. It's pliable enough to get through the smallest cracks and spaces anywhere. Water can do anything. Mm-hmm. Water can adjust, can adapt, it can freeze, it can boil, it can do anything. So be like water. Adapt, adjust. Those are my special key phrases for my interns.
Be like water. That's a very visual. It's very easy to understand that you can't deny it. That's not something that you can ignore. But speaking of, working for free, and you said with internships, whatever, it's just a short amount of time that you have to do that. When do you think knowing your worth in terms of your work comes to play? And how do you say, this is what my work is worth, and this is what I refuse to be taken advantage of in this environment?
I think and this is just production based,
Mm-hmm.
but I think if you are on a set and you are an intern and you're the lowest man on the totem pole, right? You're the freshest in there and you're learning. And you come in there and you are doing hard, crappy work that no one wants to do. But what you should be doing also is listening to everything. Your eyes and your ears are your biggest tools. So at all of that time, you're learning. Whether anyone's talking to you or not, your job is to learn from everyone. Learn who you can talk to, the PAs, the ones who are above you, who are getting paid. Talk to them, ask them questions, watch what they do, watch how they interact, watch how and what they're doing. And when you've been around long enough to know the ins and outs, and you understand what is happening and what people's roles are, then you're probably ready to go to the next level of getting hired as a PA. Now, this is the thing. Production roles, they don't make a lot of money. I mean, people are not, the day rates are not, I think a lot of people think that people in production make a ton of money. And some people do. I always laughed about the idea of shooting a cover of a magazine, because if it was me shooting a cover of Victoria's Secret when I did versus Mario Testino shooting a cover, well, I'll tell you what was separating us. A lot of zeros.
Yeah.
A lot of zeros. Because for me, I needed the exposure. I needed that. I was dying for that. For him, it's just a payday and part of his job, and he already has 25 covers this month, so he doesn't really need.
Yeah.
I mean, like, am I going to be around? Oh, yeah. Okay. How much is it? How much am I making?
Yeah.
So we had two very different needs. So the industry knows that. So they're like, do I know who you are? Am I doing you a favor, or are you doing me a favor? And that's the difference in terms of worth. Now, we all have worth. We are all worthy. But you have to understand that, like when I was saying about when you're contributing to a set, when you are contributing expertise, it's like, I think a lot of people, I've had a lot of kids, in my own situation come in, and they're like really entitled and thinking that they should be paid for even being in my space and doing whatever. I'm like, yo, this is actually hindering my time of, like, I have a lot to do, and I'm taking my time to even talk to you. Like, having you here is hard for me.
Yeah.
I'm having to think of things to talk to you about and teach you about, and giving you meaningless tasks for me just to like try something. So at that point, they're not contributing anything into my site yet.
Right.
But once they learn the ropes and they know what to do, and I don't have to tell them the same thing over and over, and they just know, then I'm like, okay, now you can teach the next interns. Now you are contributing to this party, because now you know what's going on. So now I have to hold you like a tiny baby animal and hand feed you. Now you're sufficient enough to walk around and figure things out for yourself a little bit. Now I'm willing to start thinking about giving you money to do it, because now you're now it's valuable to me.
Okay.
Interns in the beginning are nothing more than cleaning crew.
Right.
Because they don't know what the fuck they're doing.
No, that makes complete sense. That makes absolute sense.
And it's not anybody trying to be mean. It's just like, dude, I'm taking so much time, my precious time that's worth a lot of money per hour here, to teach you things. And why do you deserve to learn all the stuff that I've spent years learning? Well,
yeah,
because we have to pay it forward. That's why. But what I need from somebody is to be like, I see the value in this.
Mm.
I understand what you've done and I want to learn and I'm willing. The difference is willingness. My dad also told me this, like, if you have willingness in your life, no matter what, you will survive.
Yeah.
If you're jobless, right? You had a corporate job and you were making six figures and suddenly you find yourself laid off and you're like, shit, I'm going to lose my house. I've got these kids. I'm in deep trouble. I don't know what to do. I can't find a job.
Mhm.
Willingness is where you take the job at Starbucks because you need something to
Yeah.
get kids health care for a couple months until you find the next thing. Willingness is Will Smith's character in that movie.
Mhm.
He sells that
Pursuit of Happiness.
girl. Yes.
Yeah.
That is willingness. And like, that movie breaks me every time because I'm just like, wow.
Because it's real. That happened in real life.
Yes, it does. And there are really talented people who struggle for so long and who get kicked in the teeth over and over and over. And
Mhm.
when you have the willingness to learn, to like, again, be like water, and if you keep getting the same results if you're doing the same thing over and over and you keep getting the same results, well, then there's something wrong with what you're doing. So
Right.
you have to be willing and open enough to hear things that maybe you don't want to hear or learn new things.
It sounds like the internships should be looked at as you're getting a free class. You're getting free master classes on this. It's information that you in a school environment would be paying for. In any other environment, you would be paying for to sit down in a classroom with this person for a talk back kind of thing. And it's something where it's like, the difference being you're having to do a little labor, but it's like a work study program, I guess would be how I would liken it. Like I've done those at acting studios where I've gone in and I've swept up all the rooms and all the stairs, but then I got to take class.
Right.
So it's that sort of situation. I think that's where the disconnect, particularly right now with not in this like COVID right now, but in like general right now, is they always thinking that everything you do should result in a paycheck. Yeah, which is not accurate. If you are specifically hired as a janitor, that's great and you should be paid for that, but that's not what you signed up for in this particular situation. You signed up to be an intern, to be able to be around this environment where you can absorb all of this stuff for free.
Exactly. That is exactly right. I had one intern whose dad I kept getting, the dad wouldn't talk to me personally, which I found really strange anyway. And I kept asking my intern to have his dad come and speak to me because there was clearly a disconnect, but he wouldn't. And the kid kept saying, my dad doesn't understand why I'm doing this work and I'm not getting paid. And it was really surprising because the dad would have been older than me and from the generation where internships were more of a thing, and it was more readily accepted that you didn't get paid for an internship, that it was an understanding that it was a trade. I'm trading my expertise and teaching you for you to do shitty work to be around to learn what I'm teaching you.
Right.
And it's not always shitty work. That's the thing. Like, you get to do really cool, fun stuff in between taking out garbage. I mean, it's not bad. Like, people make it seem like you're scrubbing a 40,000 square foot warehouse with a toothpick or something. Like, it's not like that, you know? You live in fear, but it's not like, yes, you live in fear, but you aren't, you're not cleaning porta potties. Like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah. And it's something where you should need to be exposed to the type of high pressure, quick pace that it's going to be on the set anyway. Yeah. So you might as well have really high standards put on you for these tasks that might feel mundane or monotonous, but they're important to the whole thing, to the whole end result anyway.
I just always thought, I'm like, this is like you, instead of going to school, you're coming to me to learn the Cliff Notes
Exactly.
version, to learn the more realistic, hands-on, quicker. Like you would go to school for 4 years to learn not even half of what I'm telling you.
Yeah.
So you should be paying me, son.
You should start holding master classes.
Well, it's funny too, because in the way society is now, everyone is holding a workshop. Everyone is doing a master class. Everybody and their mother is charging for information, right?
Yeah.
So it's shocking when you think to yourself, because this isn't being done on a screen, you think that this is not worth anything, that like usually paying for it. And this is even more real and more hands-on, and it's more personal because it is one-to-one.
Yeah. It's like, it feels like if you repackaged it and said, okay, well then do you want to pay me to sit down for this information? Like, what are you wanting in this right now?
Totally. It is strange, but you know, we need them, they need us, and that's how it works. And I think once you realize what you're doing, like once you get a grip on what is happening around you, and there's no way you're going to understand everything. You're going to learn a lot of tough lessons along the way, but
Right.
once you can, you know your way around a set, you know how to get around without getting in trouble and keeping your head down. And people aren't always like, what are you doing? You can do things without people telling you. You find things to do, and you find ways to be helpful and anticipate needs. Then people will notice you. I was an intern at La Chapelle for 1 month. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
David plucked me from they called me the queen of the interns. They would send basically all the new interns to me in my first 2 weeks being there. They would send the new interns to me and be like, she will tell you what to do, because I knew, I like sussed it out quick. No one ever had to ask me to do anything, because I could look around and find 10 jobs that I could be helping with.
Mm-hmm.
So they were like, right, she knows what's up. 1 month into it, they were like, congratulations, you are now a production coordinator. Now you get paid.
Yeah. That's the thing. That's the thing too, is being able to, if you don't want to be in the position of being an intern anymore, then you have to take the steps to not be an intern anymore. You have to make sure they see that you're worth something to the whole process. Like you've been saying, are you contributing to this? Is it going to be a hindrance to have you on my team?
Right. That is exactly it. That is 100% it. I mean, with any job, you start entry level, don't you? It's like, and if you are being hired for a specific job, again, like you were saying, if you were hired as a janitor, then yeah, you're going to get paid. You know the aspects of the job. You know what they give you per hour. You know all that stuff. But if you're going after something with the word intern attached to it, you also have to understand exactly what that means. But it's so valuable. I think everyone should intern. I think everyone should intern, and everyone should work in food service.
Oh, yes. Yes. Also, everyone should have to, be behind the bar during happy hour when it's 6 people deep and someone's yelling at you because there wasn't like a little bit too much ice in their margarita. You're like, okay.
Yeah.
End of the world. Sorry, guys.
Seriously. Yes. If everybody could just work in food and beverage, in hospitality and food and beverage service, I think the world would be such
for
a better
week. Not even that long. Have you worked a week in hospitality? Okay, you get it.
Seriously. Oh man, hospitality is suffering so badly.
Oh yeah, it's not a good time.
Bad.
I mean, not a good time for anybody, honestly.
Yeah.
This obviously is affecting your entire.
Oh my god. I mean,
everything.
we just
both of you. Yeah.
We don't have jobs.
Yeah.
We literally are like, well, we are going to have to figure out something here, because as of right now, there is no, I mean, we travel so much for our work. I don't think we're going to be able to travel for months to come. And we are like, wow, I mean, they're talking about potentially continuing social distancing here until like December.
Yeah.
And our kids not going back to school at all this year. And our kids don't get out of school until mid-July. So for them not to go back to school, they will have literally missed like half a year of school.
Right.
So yeah, I don't know. I mean, one thing I'm doing is I'm starting to do retouching for people. I'm just letting people know that I'm a really like I'm an excellent retoucher, and if people need things touched up, that they can send me stuff, and I can give them a quote based on how long it'll take. I'll do it like an hour tracker, and do that. And I mean, that's one thing I can do from home anytime. But you know, it's tough. One of our clients, another thing I'm thinking of doing is having our clients send us product that we can create content here with.
That's what I was gonna ask is if you can do that sort of thing, and well, I'll make sure to like put links and whatever in the show notes so that people know how to get in touch with you.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. It's amazing because it makes you think outside of the box. It's super stressful, obviously, but yeah, it pushes you to figure out and problem solve and change the ways that you do things, which is hard. And a lot of people, you know, push back against that because it's like, oh God, you know, I don't do it like this, and you know, it's going to be shit or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think anything's ever going to be the same. I think we all have to just accept that things are going to be different when this, whatever, I'm saying this in air quotes, ends. It's going to be different. And we, you know, some things I think for the better, some things for the worse. But, you know, again, this is where being water comes into play. It's like, right, you know what? Now this is happening. We have to just pivot. We have to go on the reinvention tour now, like Madonna. I've been there before. I've had to do that before. When I moved to the UK, I was 6 months pregnant. I moved to the UK. I did not have a single client here. I basically had a funeral for my fashion career and was like, right, okay, it's done now. And then I had a baby, and then I was like, no, I'm just reinvented. I'm new. I'm fresh. And you know what? That's when my career really started.
So you've done it once before. You can do it again.
Amen, sister. We can do many things.
We can. So before we get to our last two questions, do you have anything else that you would like to add? Like how specifically, like on Instagram, how we can find you, or website, or if you just have some beautiful thoughts to leave us with?
Sure. We have actually two sites. We have two sort of sides to our business. One is Studio 1208, and that's all of our social channels are at Studio 1208, 1208. And then our website is studio1208.com. But then we also have a second side, which is called Establish 1208. And that's sort of more Nick's side, which his style is more dynamic and bright and colorful and in your face, and it sort of serves a different side of clients. It's kind of our more over the top clients or our edgy clients, like that side of our work. So we've sort of decided to separate them because sometimes when a certain client's looking at things, they want to feel like they can imagine you shooting their work. I mean, that's always how it is.
Right.
So they see other things that are kind of like, that's a little racy for us, or that's a little bit over the top or too bright or too like crazy. It will throw them off and they'll feel like, oh, I don't think these are the right people for us. So we've sort of separated those. So one is Establish 1208 and one is Studio 1208. And the socials are at Establish 1208 and at Studio 1208. And then we also, when we moved to England, we the way I reinvented is I did start doing weddings. Nick learned, that's how Nick even learned video, really. We started in America, and I had him shooting behind the scenes stuff on my fashion shoots. And because I thought video was going to be really important. And it turned out I was right. I didn't expect anything from him, but he was absolutely amazing. And so we just sort of started going with it and continuing on. And I taught him all the technical stuff because he was a musician. He was in a band. And they were touring and signed, but he couldn't make money in America any other way other than music. So I started paying him. Don't listen to Mr. Taxman, but I started paying him under the table. And yeah, just having him on my jobs and documenting all of that stuff. And it's so great. And he was amazing. And his edits were incredible. Like, he didn't have very much technical ability in terms of exposing and everything, but I could help with that. But his natural ability for storytelling was out of this world. And his ability for scoring was out of this world because he was a musician and just really understood that to its core. So then when we moved to England, like, I just had a new baby and I thought my life was over, or my professional life was over. Sounds so bad. I thought my professional life was over. And it was his idea to do weddings, and I shot him down because I thought I was way too cool for that. It's like, excuse me, I don't think so. But then a friend of mine, longtime friend, was getting married, and he was marrying a fashion girl, an editor for a magazine, and she basically said, I don't want a wedding photographer. I want somebody to shoot like an editorial. And that was another light bulb moment for me. And I thought, oh my gosh, that makes sense to me. Telling stories through images. I do that all the time. This makes sense. And I'm not being put into this wedding box. I can just create beautifully and just whatever I feel like, whatever. And I did it, and I loved it, and shot video for it. And that first wedding we ever did was a destination wedding, and it went in Brides magazine.
Ooh.
It went on Style Me Pretty, which was the biggest wedding blog on earth at that time.
Yeah.
It got repicked up by like 10 other blogs. It was the most viral wedding. Today, one of the images is like an iconic image for us. It's all I see it. I come across it on Pinterest all the time. It's a bride and groom stood on an infinity pool, and she's up on her tippy toes. I could send you the image, but it's like an iconic image for us, and it literally just blew the door open for weddings for us, and we were just on our way. And then just destination wedding photographer, videographer team. And at the time, there was no husband and wife team doing both. It was like you had to hire two separate entities to get that. And yeah, so while last year we walked away from weddings, we were doing them under Studio 1208 as well, but we still kept a wedding entity, but we've separated that now as well. And that's just called Nick and Maria. And that is at Nick_X_Maria. And then it's nickandmaria.co.uk for wedding stuff.
Awesome.
So we're definitely at this point open to taking weddings because right now we have no work to speak of.
Right.
So it's definitely like another deep love of ours that gave us so much beauty and just wonderful things in our life and wonderful friends and just all kinds of amazing opportunities. So it's definitely something that we're open to doing. We just don't really advertise. Well, as of a year ago, we stopped advertising it, but here we are.
And there's a lot of people who I know are actually a bunch of friends of mine. I think I know at least like 6 or 7 people who, have 6 or 7 couples who have had to just postpone indefinitely their weddings, which is so tough. And although I will say of all of them are understanding in it, no one's like angry. They're just mourning it, you know, but they're all like, no, I get it. I get why we can't have our wedding right now. Like, it's fine. We'll just like reschedule it for a later date. And it sounds like most photographers and venues and everybody are also saying like, yeah, everyone's being working together, it sounds like, to at least put relief in people's minds that it's not canceled. It's just on hold for now.
Yeah, I do think that people have been so accommodating, and I'm honestly, I think they have to be. It's kind of like accommodate or die.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, you're not wrong.
And one of the hardest things about that industry specifically is all of these things are being postponed, but they're encroaching in the following year for these vendors who can't now take work for the following year because it's filled up with all this work that essentially they've already been paid for. So this is it's going to take quite a few years, probably 3 or 4 years, for people to actually recover from this in the wedding world.
Yeah.
Just because of the nature of how it is. You know, here in England, people literally are engaged for like 3 years.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you get engaged and married and there's like a year, that's wild here.
Really?
And it's kind of like a year engagement max in America.
Yeah.
But also people spend way more money on weddings in America than they do here. The average, and this is a few years ago that I saw this average, so it's probably higher now, but the average a few years ago in America that people spend on weddings is like $75,000.
Woo!
America. And the average in England is like 20.
Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So it is the differences between the two places it's astounding, actually, the differences. In England, the bride walks down first traditionally. Anticlimactic.
Yeah. Like, come on, you gotta hold the best for last.
Right? You need the moment where it goes quiet, everybody clears the aisle, they close the doors, they reopen them. The music changes. Give me the drama.
Yeah, that's the whole point of a wedding, right? Drama.
Exactly. But yeah, here they just like a big old train of people. It's a bride, she leads them all, and then it's just basically the bride comes down and all the bridesmaids and groomsmen don't walk down the aisle at all. It's just bridesmaids, and they all clog up the whole aisle, and they have to just stand there awkwardly while the bride's at the front it's just like blocks the way. No one can get to their seats. It's so weird.
Really?
Yeah, and a lot of times the priest or the vicar or the whoever this is in a church, they will walk down in front of the bride.
Ugh. See, then that defeats the purpose of her going down first.
Oh,
That's so interesting. I wonder if it just has to do with
just old
I wonder
tradition.
where that tradition comes from, because I was doing research on Boudica. She was coined the like original Braveheart. She's from like 30 AD. And so that's like ancient Britain. And I wonder if things stem from like Celtic traditions or just like ancient Roman Britain traditions from when they like invaded. That would be so interesting to look at.
It is really interesting. So yeah, there's a lot of differences. It's a really cool like learning experience, adjusting as, you know, an American married to a British person living in Britain, and just finding out all these differences and how to they don't do first looks here. It's starting to be a thing that more people are doing, but they're like, what? See them before? How bad luck is that? There's loads of differences, but it's cool. And we figured out, you know, every wedding, it's like we all know what happens. There's certain things that happen at every wedding. Obviously, everybody is a little bit different, but it's like the vast majority of things, it's like goes like this and then like this and then like this. But it's so cool when you have different cultures, because it's like, nothing is even close to the same, and you're just like, wow, this is so neat, and it keeps you very much on your toes and excited.
Mm-hmm. I ask the last two questions to everyone that comes through the podcast. The first question, what is your second favorite color?
Okay. It is yellow.
What kind of yellow?
Oh, sunshiny, bright yellow.
Why do you like that color?
Since I was a kid, I have always loved yellow. I think it's just such a happy color, and it makes me feel good. It makes me feel like sunshine. I grew up at the beach, and the sunlight, I don't know, I think it just has always had an affinity to a happiness.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yellow used to be my favorite color as a kid, and now I'm like a loser whose favorite color is black.
Hey, that's my favorite color.
Yeah. So it's such an adult favorite color to have, but yeah, my second favorite color is yellow for sure.
And then finally, what, in your opinion, is the best part of being a woman?
Oh my gosh. Okay. The best part of being a woman is that we can literally do anything. We can do anything, and we are so important that the world could not go on without us.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're kind of like the guys. Like we like, they can't do it without us.
Yeah.
We're kind of a big deal. But we're really resilient, and I think that women are super strong. So I love that even when people, doubt us or think one way about us based on what we look like, or just because we're women, I think when times get really hard, women seem to not lose their heads and like dig so deep and show an amount of strength that's not really humanly even possible. It's not saying men couldn't do it. It just it's a different type of strength.
Mm-hmm.
I think being a woman is so powerful because we can literally do anything. There's nothing that we can't do if we work at it.
Yeah.
We can learn anything. We can do anything physical that we want to do. We can train to do anything, and there's no limits. There's no limits other than those that are placed upon us.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really powerful to me.
Mm.
It's like when it's like Beyonce, where she's like strong enough to raise the children, then get back to business. Like, that's really powerful. It's like you can be the nurturer and carer, but then you can also be this like badass business person as well and make serious decisions.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really cool.
Yeah.
And men can do the same thing. Men can nurture and be carers too. Like, there's no gender roles in my house. Like, Nick does everything that I do, and I do stuff that would be like, finger quote, like men's roles too, and I think that's really cool, and I hope that my boys sort of learn that from us, so that they don't think of things as gender roles.
Right.
Just as, hey, that needs doing.
Yeah. Just like, well, all of these things have to be done to run the household at some point, so somebody might as well do them.
Exactly. So
yeah.
What's your favorite thing about being a woman?
Ooh, you know what? No one has turned that around on me yet. I and it's hard to not be influenced by the answers that everyone has given me. Sure. But I would say I love that. For myself, I go back and forth every day, even in one day, on how I'm presenting myself as a person, in terms of not just physically, but in the way that specifically appearance. I can go from one day being in a pantsuit and like some power pumps to the next day in Timberlands and big sweats. And it's something where I like to dress however I feel that day. And if someone has a problem with it, I really don't care, because I've struggled with caring in the past.
Mm-hmm.
And I just got to a point where I was like, nobody actually cares what I'm wearing. And if it's what makes me happy, and if this is what I need to wear to feel confident in what I'm doing that day, like if I'm, I don't know, if I have a rehearsal that I'm nervous about, but I feel like if I come in my like double Dutch braids and like, a really loud sweater, and then people are going to understand who I am right away, then like that's what I'm going to do to feel comfortable. And I think that's something that women are good at doing.
Mm.
Adapting to each situation, finding your own inner power of what you need to rise to a challenge. And for me, a lot of it comes from how I present myself that day. And it changes for everyone. Everyone has a different way that they tap into their inner strength to confront whatever hardships or situations that they're facing. Not even hardships, just like a meeting that day.
Yeah.
That's my favorite part, I think. I think that's one of the coolest things, that we have all these options to us. And if you can find it in yourself to not care about how someone else is going to perceive you, then you have so much open to you.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we really can be chameleons in so many ways that men can't.
Yeah.
Or it's not accepted as well as accepted, or socially acceptable, or even we do have a lot more options in terms of how we present ourselves daily.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it is fun. Like there are certain things like, we yeah, you're spot on. That is a really cool thing.
Spot on. That was so English
God.
of you. Are you gonna go throw something in the bin?
I'm throwing my whole self in the bin after this. When somebody says, when something is like terrible and they're like, oh, just get in the bin. Get in the bin.
There's a British true crime podcast that I listen to called Red Handed, and one of the hosts, she says that all the time, and it's my favorite thing, and I've started saying it, and it's so funny. It's so funny.
That's amazing. Oh my God.
Well, thank you so much for coordinating the time difference to be able to sit down with us today. It's been amazing. You're so much fun to chat with, and you're full of so much insight.
Well, thank you for having me. This has been really, really awesome, and I appreciate you caring about anything I have to say. That's pretty cool. Yeah, it's been so lovely chatting, and so easy chatting, and I had such a great time. Thank you.
I think this is my my longest interview. Longest interview to date. We've set a record. I love it. It's so funny.
I'm sorry.
No, not at all. I'm an enabler too. I'm like, please tell me more. Please.
That's my kryptonite, an enabler who like asks me to talk more. That is literally my kryptonite, or like good kryptonite, where I'm like, oh, you want to hear more?
Listen to my TED Talk.
Seriously, thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
And thank you, listeners, for tuning in again. I hope you're feeling as creative and inspired as I am after all of that we've just talked about. Don't forget to rate and review the show. I know you're sick of hearing me say it, but it really does help the podcast get noticed so that more and more people can be inspired by all of these incredible women. You can send an email to womenofherstorypodcast@gmail.com if you have questions, comments, concerns, thoughts, episode requests, whatever, bring it on. You can also follow us on Instagram at Women of Her Story Podcast. And until next week, be safe, stay healthy, and show the world what you're made of.